Okay, this video is about the National Security Agency and encryption. You've probably seen some of this on the news nowadays. Let's see, first of all, just going to go ahead and show you maybe some of the funding for the NSA. Just starting off with IRS tax receipts. Now this was from the year 2013, and this is Americans paying taxes, and it totaled $2.86 trillion for that year of 2013. It's well over $3 trillion at this point. In 2009, 2012, it gained some momentum. So well over $3 trillion that United States citizens pay in tax, and then some of those taxes obviously are apportioned to different agencies within the federal government. And let's see, where is that one thing? Yeah, and so part of that money is allocated to the intelligence operations. Says here in the Washington Post, 52.6 billion was the black budget allocations. Let's see, so you have actual NSA had 10.8 billion. The National Security Agency protect the government's information systems and intercept foreign signals, intelligence information. 10.8 billion. So they're well funded to do their job, and so they got plenty of money to do what they're looking to do. And let's see, what's the deal? What's going on? Why are we even talking about encryption? This is from Newswire Post. Says about the Apple CEO. But in a letter posted overnight, Apple CEO Tim Cook says the company will not comply, threatening to pit Apple against the FBI during future legal action. Cook wrote, "Up to this point, we have done everything that is both within our power and within the law to help them. But now the U.S. government has asked us for something we simply do not have and something we consider too dangerous to create. They have asked us to build a backdoor to the iPhone." And it's over encryption. So what the heck's encryption? Encryption is the process of encoding messages or information in such a way that only authorized parties can read it. Encryption does not of itself prevent interception, but denies the message content to the interceptor. In an encryption scheme, the intended communication information or message, referred to as plain text, is encrypted using an encryption algorithm generating ciphertext that can only be read if decrypted. For technical reasons, an encryption scheme usually uses a pseudo-random encryption key generated by an algorithm. It is in principle possible to decrypt the message without processing the key, but for a well-designed encryption scheme, large computational resources and skill are required. An authorized recipient can easily decrypt the message with the key provided to the originator to recipients, but not to unauthorized interceptors. So the part of the black budget there is dedicated to the NSA being able to in fact break codes and find out what's going on with terror plots, and in this name of safety. But as we'll see here, way back in, this was an AP, September 6, 2013, the report was the NSA cracked most online encryption. The NSA, working with the British government, has secretly been unraveling encryption technology that billions of internet users rely upon to keep their electronic messages and confidential data safe from prying eyes, according to published reports based on internal U.S. government documents. The NSA has bypassed or altogether cracked much of the digital encryption used by businesses and everyday web users, according to reports Thursday in the New York Times, Britain's Guardian newspaper, and the nonprofit news website ProPublica. The reports describe how the NSA invested billions of dollars since 2000 to make nearly everyone's secrets available for government consumption. In doing so, the NSA built powerful supercomputers to break encryption codes and partnered with unnamed technology companies to insert backdoors. into their software, the report said. Such a practice would give the government access to users' digital information before it was encrypted and sent over the internet. For the past decade, NSA has led an aggressive, multi-pronged effort to break widely used internet encryption technologies, according to a 2010 briefing document about the NSA's accomplishments meant for its UK counterpart, Government Communications Headquarters, or GCHQ. Security experts told the news organization such a code-breaking practice would ultimately undermine internet security and leave everyday web users vulnerable to hackers. So they got the money to do it with. They got the technology, and they're already doing it. And so here's the NSA chief claiming that the attacks in Paris recently would have never happened without encrypted apps.
Obviously, the USA Freedom Act was passed as a reaction to the Snowden disclosures about metadata. But there's still a lot of concerns among civil liberties advocates and privacy advocates about what's known as incidental collection of Americans' emails and phone calls when you do your foreign targeting under your 702 authorities. How many Americans' phone calls and emails do you scoop up incidentally when you're doing your foreign intelligence?
So I'm not going to get into the specifics of a classified mission, but I'll talk about it in broad terms. We acknowledge that in the course of executing our lawful foreign intelligence mission, in which we are collecting information specifically for, there's a series of specific purposes in which we're granted authority by the court under Section 702 to collect information, which we collect overseas against non-U.S. persons. In the course of doing that, we acknowledge that we will run across U.S. individuals. Because of that, we put a series of, and again, validated by the courts, by the legal framework in which we use, there's a series of processes that are put in place to make sure that that data is minimized, protected, and not just indiscriminately used or reported on. So for example, if I decide as a result of running across a U.S. person, hey, there is activity there that we run across that, oh, we ought to be able to now collect against that individual. I have to go to the court and we have to make a case and get the judge's authority.
Oh, use the Fourth Amendment. What a
Worrisome
novel idea.
Is, even if you're not intentionally targeting, you're scooping up the private communications of some segment of the American public. And one sort of starting point for the debate is, how often does this happen? Why can't you give an answer to that?
We don't talk about the specifics of the classified mission. I apologize, I'm just Michael, I'm not going to do that. Now, one of the ways that we do this is that's what we have congressional oversight, and that's why we use a classified.
But you aren't even telling members of Congress.
If you'll let me finish. So we have a classified session, and we walk through specifics. So, for example, we're in the process now, as you've indicated, 702, currently set to expire December 31st of next year. So there'll be an ongoing dialogue in the next 20 months until we get to the end of 2017, where we'll be walking, particularly our congressional oversight committees, that's their primary function, walking them through the specifics of, here's what we do, here's why we...
Give me a break. This hacked NSA computer. Okay. Yahoo.com is not responding or whatever. All right, so anyway, he went on to say,
you should feel comfortable.
Thanks, guys.
That U.S. persons are protected in their
Max
identity.
Headroom reappears.
There's a new Oliver Stone movie coming out about Snowden. Yeah, do you plan to see it?
Probably not.
Former Attorney General Eric Holder said he spurred a necessary debate. Do you agree?
The former Attorney General is certainly entitled to his opinion.
But I asked if you agreed.
A good former Attorney General is certainly entitled to his opinion.
You said when you spoke at Aspen, you were asked a question about Snowden. The fact that the leaked documents from Snowden contained next to nothing about Russia or China. And what you made of that. And you replied, it's not by chance to me that the leaks that you have seen publicized to date sure seem to be oriented as an attempt to drive a wedge, to try to harm relationships and they seem to be focused to achieve very specific outcomes. What did you mean?
You look at the timing of some of the leaks, you look at where the leaks were directed against, whether it might be something in Europe, something in Asia. Again, this is not by chance to me. This is those with a viewpoint attempting to achieve a particular outcome to drive change as they believe in.
But
it's-
who? Are
it's
you
not
talking
by
about?
chance. Whether it's those around him, others, my only point is that this isn't all just random.
Do you believe he acted alone?
I accept that what he did at the time, he did because he believed it was the right thing to do. I fundamentally disagree with that. I wished, again, wasn't in the job at the time, I wished I really believed that. Why didn't you raise your hand and say, look, I have a concern with what we're doing. Look, I don't agree with what we're doing. I'm concerned about the well-being of what we're doing and its implications for our society.
There was a big debate after Paris.
Okay, so yeah, he says that he should have raised his hand, and the whole reason, basically, that we even know what the NSA is was about Snowden's revelations and what was going on with spying on everyday people and gathering metadata. And so that just kind of brings up this issue about well, they coined this administration coined that term. If you see something, say something, and to become a whistleblower. And this kind of goes in with what happens when you do become a whistleblower. So here's what you get. What happens to whistleblowers after the fact? It is like getting a divorce, says Mary Lee Cohen, a partner at Washington-based Phillips, Cohen and Goldstein, and an advocate for whistleblowers in false claims cases. They have had 25 years at the company. They give their identities in fulfilling relationships. Counselor Cohen and other experts advise whistleblowers to leave their career and to start fresh in other lines of work because their actions have effectively blacklisted them. Many whistleblowers, while avowing they would sound the alarm again under the same circumstances, would rather never have gone through the turmoil, even if they were vindicated and if they received millions of dollars in settlement. They wish the occasion to blow the whistle, the wrongdoing, had never occurred. But at least one whistleblower says he wouldn't do it again. In 1975, William C. Bush, then a 50-year-old aerospace engineer in the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, challenged agency policies that kept workers inactive. Threatened with dismissal, Bush saw his grade level reduced and his salary cut by $10,000. He was eventually given a clerical job. It took more than 3 years for him to be reinstated. Bush also blew the whistle on private NASA directive, later rescinded, disallowing executive leadership training programs for employees after 40. Eventually, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against Bush, saying that federal employees did not have the constitutional right to blow the whistle. Bush retired from NASA in 1986 and now suffers from several stress-related illnesses he says were brought on by the continual harassment. One of the country's best-known former whistleblowers, he has maintained a support network for others and has pleaded their causes to members of Congress, the press, and concerned organizations. Although less active now, Bush says he still receives a couple calls a week from whistleblowers. Hell no, I wouldn't do it again, Bush asserts. It ruined my life, my wife's life, and I wouldn't do it anonymously either. There is no protection whatsoever. So we see that in this man's case, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against him, that said federal employees did not have the constitutional right to blow the whistle. So what is this cat talking about? He wished he had just raised his hand. I mean, there's already record on the books that show that he wouldn't have been in favor. And so that wasn't going to pan out for him. And this kind of goes hand in hand with this video here. Where is this guy? Oh, here we go. This was about Obama originally had said in this Google Hangout that his administration was to be the the most transparent in history. So you be the judge on
And
that.
then eight, you ran on a platform of really trying to become one of the most transparent administrations in American history. However, with recent leaked guidelines regarding drone strikes on American citizens and Benghazi and closed-door hearings on the budget and deficit, it just feels a lot less transparent than I think we had all hoped it would be. How has the reality of the presidency changed that promise? And what can we do moving forward to kind of get back to that promise?
Well, actually, on a whole bunch of fronts, we've kept that promise. This is the most transparent administration in history, and I can document how that is the case. Everything from every visitor that comes into the White House is now a part of the public record. That's something that we changed. Just about every law that we pass, every rule that we implement, we put online for everybody there to see. There are a handful of issues, mostly around national security, where people have legitimate questions, where there's still concern about whether or not we have all the information we need. Benghazi, by the way, is not a good example of that. That was largely driven by campaign stuff, because everything about that, we've had more testimony and more paper provided to Congress than ever before, and Congress is sort of running out of things to ask. But when it comes to things like how we conduct counterterrorism, there are legitimate questions there, and we should have that debate. And what I've tried to do coming into office was to create a legal and a policy framework that respected our traditions and our rule of law. But some of these programs are still classified, which meant that we might have shared them, for example, with the Congressional Intelligence Office, but they're not on the front page of the papers or on the web.
Yeah, so is the whole premise of the NSA, is over terrorism and national security, originated from the attacks during 9/11. And so now we're to this point where you got the NSA wants to do away with encryption on phones and basically just make it easier for their job to spy on you and to listen to everything that you're doing and to gather information and intel, and all in the guise of national security and protection. But I just don't see where that's going to make us safer. And as a matter of fact, I think they're already funded and already have enough technology to be able to get around this this encryption. So I'm not buying into this whole story of doing away with the encryption to make us safer. So I guess I've made my case, and you be the judge.